60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
How will you not be in recession? Has Nigeria not always been in recession? Go and ask the poor. They have always been asked to tighten their belt. People are deceiving us. Oh, we've just declared recession. What the government simply wanted to announce is that the money we were making from oil is no longer there. That's all.
Well, hello and welcome. This is 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajetumobi. Thank you for joining me on the program today. My host today is a former president of the West African Bar Association, a human rights activist and lawyer with over 3 decades of active legal practice. So, join me after the break. It's 60 Minutes with FEMI Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Welcome back. Welcome, Mr. Falana. Thank you very much for coming on 60 Minutes with me today.
It's my pleasure.
On Monday, 9th of January 2017, the President, Muhammadu Buhari, fired the Executive Secretary of the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria and also suspended the Council's Corporate Governance Code. Now, that code took effect on the 17th day of October 2016, and it was issued in accordance with Section 50 of the Act, which required the Directorate of Corporate Governance to develop the principles and practice of corporate governance applicable in Nigeria. The code also went further to impose tenure limits and age limits on all those administering organizations. Now, this code stipulated a 20-year term or 70-year age limit for heads of all not-for-profit organizations such as churches and mosques. So when we say code, is it the same as a law that must be obeyed?
For sure, because the code was made pursuant to the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria Act, which has not been suspended. So the purported suspension was illegal in the sense that it is only the council of that body that can suspend any code. And as of the time that announcement was made, the new council was being reconstituted, and the new council has not endorsed the purported suspension of the code. So as far as the law is concerned, the code remains firmly in place. 2, you cannot remove a man for acting in accordance with the law.
Yes, but let me stop you there. Because he received instructions from the supervising minister, under which the Financial Council comes under, the minister says, hold implementation of that order. Coming after 89 people have already complied with the code. If the code is suspended, are they going to unsuspend the 89 people who also complied with that
You see,
code?
we have to be extremely cautious and get our facts correct. To the best of my knowledge and information, the Redeemed Christian Church of Nigeria had indeed set up a committee since last year to attend to the crisis over its leadership. So, the code did not ask Pastor Enoch Adeboye to step down. No. If you read that code, and many people did not read the code at all, what the code has prohibited is a combination of the leadership of a church.
That's the spiritual leader.
To be a member of the trustee of the church,
yes,
or mosque or any NGO, as well as the custodian of the accounts. Because the government has received various complaints where people have alleged mismanagement of the funds of non-governmental organizations in the country. Yes. Some have dragged themselves to court on their own. Churches have gone to court. Mosques have gone to court. Other NGOs have taken themselves to court.
Because of the crisis
succession. And allegations of mismanagement of funds. Some have dragged themselves to the EFCC. It was to take cognizance of these developments that the code was drafted and passed. I want to surprise you. Those who are saying they want to live above the law in Nigeria have branches of their churches outside Nigeria, in Africa, in Europe and America, and they comply with the laws there. Tougher laws than you have here. But here, in an atmosphere of impunity, everybody does what they like.
What do you say to the argument that government has no business regulating the business of churches?
Let me just correct this first. The minister, yes, supervising minister, has no powers to run an agency that has a council and a directory. No. He may be able to make suggestions to them. But the minister cannot say, stop. Suspend a code that has been passed in accordance with the law. No, the minister is not a legislator. He doesn't have the power. He's not the council of that body.
What about civil service?
He exceeded his powers.
What about civil service?
No, we're not dealing with, once the law is very clear,
yes,
you don't fall back on civil service rule to guide the provisions of the law or the affairs of an organization.
So the duty of the executive secretary was well laid out.
Oh, well spelled out.
And he moved with the
and
law.
Nobody has said Jim Obasi offended or breached or contravened the law. Nobody has been punished in our country for complying strictly with the provisions of a law. On the contrary, you punish those who violate the law. Much more importantly, this administration places premium on fair hearing. The letter just written by the president told the Senate, alleged that the secretary to the government, Mr. David Lawal, was not giving fair hearing. Was Jim Obasi giving fair hearing? Even if the church had lodged a complaint and there was none, the government would have challenged Jim Obasi. Please, can you justify this code? And the man will have said, this code was passed in accordance with the law. I have not committed any offense. And nobody has charged him with the violation of the law.
Do you think many people were shocked to find out that religious organizations do not exist outside the law? I've heard a lot of people saying they didn't know that churches were subject to the law.
You see, put the code aside.
Yes.
For a moment. All the churches in Nigeria, the main churches, the main mosques, NGOs and others, are registered under Part C of the Companies and Allies Matters Act. Come on. Forget the code. Before you register as an NGO, as a church or mosque, you deposit your constitution written by you. If you don't have a constitution, you will not be registered. And in the constitution, succession is spelled out clearly. If the CAC, the Companies Affairs Commission, could simply have written to any church or mosque, we hereby draw your attention to section so or rule so of your constitution. Please comply, because you have registered it with a government.
Yes.
Just like a trade union, you register the constitution of a trade union with the register of trade unions. After the registration, you can't go around violating the provisions of your registered constitution. Apart from that, churches and mosques in Nigeria, like most civilized societies, are charitable organizations.
What we call NGOs.
Now, if you are a charitable organization, the moment you remove funds meant for charity, the moment you transfer it to a business venture, you have violated the law.
Like opening a school.
Oh yes. Setting up a university which charges fees that the children of the congregation member cannot attend. Okay. There are problems there. 2014, one of the church leaders in Nigeria bought a jet and leased the jet
Yes.
to a private business that now turned that jet into a courier for moving dollars out of the country. And that plane was arrested together with the funds. How? And as soon as people criticized this, we were told to shut up that, oh, this is a leader of a church. Those who are opposing him are against the Almighty God. We had to come out to say, please stop it. You're only lucky that we're operating in a country where the laws are rather silent. That if you were operating elsewhere, haven't bought that plane for the spread of evangelism. That was how it was registered.
Yes.
You cannot turn around and use it to ferry dollars out of the country
For commercial
purposes. No! It was well reported that Pastor Adeboye alerted the nation that a lot of the leaders of the churches suffer from integrity deficiency. And that's a way of saying we need to watch it. There are people who are parading themselves as leaders of our churches and mosques who should be questioned by the law.
Section 9.9 subsection 3 of the Financial Reporting Council law says that nothing is intended to change the spiritual leadership.
The code is simply saying there should be transparency in the running of the affairs of churches and mosques and other NGOs. 89 NGOs have complied with the provisions of the law.
One of the other stories I read was that except there was a gazette, shelving the execution of that code, the minister couldn't tell him not to implement the code. Is it only by gazette that code?
No, you see, frankly speaking, I don't want us to engage in speculations.
Yes.
Suffice it to say that it is only the directorate set up under that act that can make a code, amend it or suspend it. No minister, no other body can do so.
None.
Unless the parliament, the National Assembly in our office, will want to amend that law. But the minister cannot sit down in his office and say, oh, I have suspended the code. Make pursuant to a law. Did you make it?
So the law still stands.
Oh, yes.
I understand that by the 10th of February, the tenure of Walter Onogen, who is the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, will end except the National Assembly confirms him as a substantive CJN. Does the president have an option here? Must he go with Onogen because there is a tradition of, appointing the most senior justice, or does he have
No,
an
it's
option?
not just a tradition. It's a constitutional injunction.
It is a law.
Yeah. That the most senior justice of the Supreme Court will be appointed the Chief Justice unless there are reasons to the contrary. And in this case, none has been adduced. What is important for all of us to know is that it is dangerous to politicize the post of the Chief Justice of Nigeria.
Is that what it appears to you, that it is being politicized?
Oh, yes.
You think this administration is holding out for a northern candidate?
No, not at all. No, there's no basis for it. No basis for it. There's no way the president can appoint anybody not recommended by the National Judicial Council. It's not possible.
So the NJC
has to recommend.
And the president must go with
of
the
course.
recommendation.
Oh yes. Unless the president can now tell the NJC, for this reason, questions of integrity, incompetence or whatever, please, can you give me another name? That has not happened. Yes. I also believe that the government should have tidied up these affairs without allowing all manners of interest groups to jump into the fray. Some are even threatening. For which reason the Honorable Acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onogen, has had to come up. Please,
don't fight on my behalf.
Don't do this for me. Because it's not fair. I mean, the man wants to be appointed on merit, not on the basis of ethnicity or religion or other primordial, consideration.
So if the 3 months tenure of the acting CJN expires without him being appointed as a substantive.
Well, going by the tradition of the NJC, right? the president will be requested to reappoint him. They've done that over the years.
To reappoint him?
Oh, yes. That's what they have been doing.
Even though the 3 months is,
no, once you see, ordinarily, all things being equal.
Yes.
Once the 3 months lapses, the same person cannot be reappointed, going by the provision of section 231, subsection 5. But I'm saying, since 1999, the NJC has been recommending the same persons as chief judges, acting chief judges of states, many states, maybe apart from Lagos. There's no state in Nigeria that has not had an acting chief judge since 1999,
yes,
whose terms have been extended beyond the 3 months. In the case of the president of the Court of Appeal, when the Honorable Justice Ayo Salami was suspended by the NJC, the most senior justice of the Court of Appeal, the Honorable Justice Dalatu Adamu, was asked to act. He acted for 15 months. He was removed. There were some questions about, his integrity. The next person, the Honorable Justice Zainab Bukachua, acted for over a year before she was appointed as the president of the Court of Appeal. So we're not going to have a crisis. But all the same, the presidency should, without any further delay, put an end to this unnecessary controversy by sending the nomination of the Honorable Justice Walter Onogan to the Senate for immediate confirmation.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, it's 60 Minutes with me, Angela Ajetumobi. On my hot seat today, Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. So, what do we miss by not having a substantive Chief Justice of Nigeria? Is there anything we're lacking?
No. Once the Constitution, or any law for that matter, stipulates that an appointee be confirmed, it is safer, it is better to send the name for confirmation as soon as possible, even before he begins to perform the functions of the office. As you have seen in the case of the EFCC acting chairman,
yes,
you run into problems. And the position of the Chief Justice of a country has to be taken out of unnecessary influence. I mean, for instance, if you ask a Chief Justice to continue to act for 3 months, for 6 months, the temptation is there that those who are likely to confirm him at the end of the day may begin to give conditions. Some decisions are before the court. If you don't give this decision this way or the other, we may not confirm you. That is the crisis you're having in the case of the EFCC chairman. Forget about the report of the SSS. There are legislators, there are senators, not less than 9 of them, who are standing trial. There are others whose cases may be going to court. So, but when you now allow the man to act for over a year, what do you expect? Even the report of the SSS is based essentially on post-appointment allegations.
Post-appointment
allegations. Oh yes.
Allegations that came after his...
Of course, because you didn't send his name for confirmation. Say somebody went to Mecca, somebody got a house, and the rest of... These are all post-appointment allegations. Whereas if he had been confirmed, as soon as the appointment was made, all those allegations would not have been relevant. And that can happen to anybody. Somebody can now say, oh, if you allow the Chief Justice to act indefinitely, or you are renewing the appointment, cases are going to the Supreme Court. And our society, people want to influence one way or the other. You must do it this way. And then before you know it, post-appointment allegations were made. So that is what we lose. 2, when you say somebody is acting as the head of government, because the head of the judiciary is the head of an arm of government, there must be a problem. Yes. Because that's what you suggest. When the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria goes out of the country to represent our country, yes, and is introduced as acting Chief Justice, it's very strange to many countries.
It robs some value of
the integrity of your cause, of your country, And people begin to ask, why is he acting? Why has he not been confirmed? So you're also exposing your country to ridicule. So we lose a lot when you do not make up your mind on time with respect to appointments.
In the case of Mr. Magu of the EFCC that you've also talked about, what does the law say? Can the president continue to present Magu indefinitely, or will he have to change his mind at some point since the Senate is reluctant?
Again, we have to organize ourselves as a people in a serious manner. We should let people take us seriously. But when you run your affair on an ad hoc basis, do you want to do business with an acting person? Are you sure it's going to be confirmed? Are you sure we're not going to be having the same discussion with another person who may be appointed tomorrow? You run into problems. But when you are sure this guy is likely to be in office for the next 4 or 5 years,
yes,
you are confident
to move ahead.
So these are the problems. The president, of course, has the power to retain Mr. Magu as the acting chairman of the EFCC. What he cannot, the president cannot,
yes,
bypass the Senate to say that he's the chairman, substantive chairman.
He needs the Senate.
Of course, that's the law. Section 2 subsection 3 of the EFCC Act. The president shall appoint subject to the confirmation of the Senate. But in this case, the president did not send the name until after 6 months. And the Senate did not look at the letter until after 6 months. Meanwhile, cases are going on. Toes are being stepped upon. Powerful toes. And so it's not going to be easy.
Yes.
To say, okay, we pass.
This is the person.
No. It was not even given, there was no confirmation hearing. If you will recall, all the minister designates or nominees for ministerial positions against whom people raise serious allegations were all given the opportunity to react to those allegations seriatim, one by one, yes, all of them. In this case, Magu was just told at an executive level, sorry, we just got a letter from the SSS. None of the allegations was put across to him for his own reaction. None. We are now going to send the letter back to the president. He was not given any hearing.
And that was it.
Oh, that was it. Contrary to the rules of the Senate, contrary to the provisions of the law. Because if you say somebody shall be confirmed, you must subject him to a confirmation hearing. If there are allegations against him, you go and in fact, what the Senate says is that you must go and put those allegations in an affidavit so that it can be confronted. That didn't happen. And that shouldn't surprise anybody. But there's no way you can act, you can effectively perform your duties or functions, yes, as CFCC chairman for 3 months or 6 months without offending powerful people in our country. Because corruption is very powerful and it has a way of fighting back ferociously. And this is what is going on.
Are you one of those who thinks that the corruption war is one-sided, or do you think let's start somewhere? It's better than nothing.
Those who make such allegations are talking bonkun. It's bonkun. There is no way you can arrest a powerful person who will not raise one allegation or the other. It's not possible. Because they have the means,
yes,
to buy the media. They have the means to influence the society. They have the means to corrupt the system, even with the stolen money. So they try to change the narrative. Oh, I'm being arrested because I have criticized the president. Not that I have not stolen. No, none of them have said, oh, I didn't steal. They say, am I the only thief? That is the kind of ridiculous statement or conclusions you reach. Oh, they are saying it because I'm not a Muslim, or because I'm a Christian, or because I didn't come from one particular part of the country.
Yes.
Did you steal?
Or not?
Have you returned the money to the treasury? And do you know, since 2003, when the EFCC came on board, or since 2000, when the ICPC came on board, nobody has gone to court to say I was maliciously prosecuted. None. Therefore, pay me damages for prosecuting me maliciously. Nobody. And in the last 1 year alone, the EFCC has secured more than 200 convictions.
Why doesn't anyone know about them?
I think that is part of their own problem. This should be made clear. And some of these cases go beyond Yahoo boys and the rest. Some of them have to do with politically exposed persons.
Serious politics.
Oh yes, the ex-Nimasa DG, Mr. Amashe, was convicted and sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. A former commissioner in Adamawa State was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. Some chairmen of local government in Kaduna and Kogi State have been sentenced to long years of imprisonment.
And where do you stand on the matter of James Ibori? You know now he has been released pending deportation to Nigeria. Some people are raising Ochofa convict and saying, you know, the EFCC has no right under the law to charge him again if he comes back within jurisdiction.
It is beyond the EFCC. The argument was raised by Chief James Ibori's lawyers in the UK that the case against him in Nigeria has been dismissed. Therefore, don't try him here. And they said, no. You're not serious. What is before us has to do with the violations of the laws of the United Kingdom, not about Nigeria. In this case, it's beyond the EFCC. It's beyond the EFCC. Because the Court of Appeal here has set aside the judgment of Justice Awokulei, and the Court of Appeal had ordered that if they are rearranged, that order has not been set aside. So it's beyond the EFCC.
The decision of the Federal High Court
has been set aside by the Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal has said he has a case to answer.
Are you saying that if he comes within jurisdiction, he may still be...
I'm not the one saying that. That's what the Court of Appeal has said. And that order has not been set aside. I'm not the one saying that. I'm not the one suggesting that. It's not the EFCC that is saying that.
Yes.
That is the order of the Court of Appeal, which has to be complied with.
If Ibori's lawyers appeal that Court of Appeal decision,
they have to set that decision aside at the Supreme Court before Chief James Ibori can be a free man. You know, for me, I pity him. You know, I mean, to be honest with you. You know, Avosaf is sentenced in the United Kingdom only to come back home and be arraigned again in line with the decision of the Court of Appeal. But that is the position today.
And if he's pardoned, will he still be able to seek public office if he gets a presidential pardon?
No, he has not been convicted by Nigeria. Okay. So the president cannot pardon him.
Okay, so the conviction in the UK doesn't fall within...
No. It's only when you have been convicted under a Nigerian law that you can be pardoned here. But the president cannot pardon him for an offense committed in the United Kingdom.
But the offense committed in the United Kingdom can prevent him from seeking for...
No, for 10 years. I mean, he cannot run for any public office in Nigeria. For 10 years.
For 10 years.
Wherever he has been convicted, as far as the Constitution is concerned, anybody convicted of fraud or fraud-related offenses, like corruption and the rest, cannot contest election in Nigeria for 10 years.
You talked about the investigation of corrupt judges. Is the process for bringing charges against a corrupt lawyer or a corrupt judge, is it tedious? Is it faulty? Why aren't we seeing more of these prosecutions?
Now I've said it repeatedly that lawyers know all corrupt judges and lawyers, but not much has been done by the relevant organizations to expose and isolate the few ones that are destroying the legal profession in Nigeria. Those of us who stick our neck and insist that these guys be brought to book are ostracized in certain circles and even called names by our colleagues, you know, who believe that corruption is normal.
Yeah, why are you being holier than thou?
No, not being holier than thou. Why is it your business alone to want to expose criminals amongst us? Oh yes. When you ask them, but we know there are lawyers who are destroying the profession. There are lawyers who are messing up our judges. Say yes, but what? We just have to leave them. That is the attitude. And that's why we're in this mess. It happened in Ghana. The Ghana Bar Association paid lip service to the issue of judicial corruption until a journalist, RM, went out and video recorded corrupt judges who were negotiating bribes and the rest. And it took him 2 years. Discreet investigation for 2 years. And by the time it came out, it was very serious in Ghana. The roof of the house almost collapsed. Everybody wanted to watch the film. Oh yeah, because he uploaded it. And of course, the judiciary had to wake up. And the Chief Justice, Lady Justice Regina Woods, had to set the process in motion to flush them out of the bench.
But you know, Mr. Falana, that corruption fights back.
Oh yes. Oh yes. But any serious government can always tame corruption. To attempt to fight back, but you can tame it if you are committed,
Yes.
if you are serious, and if you have agents of change.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back. My concluding moments now with Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. I want to look at two areas of concern in our current constitution. Section 308, restriction on legal proceedings. If we rationalize 308 by saying that the executive should not be distracted by litigation while in office, why then should the leadership of the other three arms of government be distracted? Why should the Senate President, for instance, be distracted, shifting his focus from the business of the Senate? Why can't the Chief Justice of Nigeria to not have immunity?
Well, each of them, the President of the Senate or legislators have immunity, restricted immunity. For anything said in the House, you cannot be penalized. The same thing with the judiciary. All the judgments delivered, anything said in court, no judge can be penalized. Our judges enjoy judicial immunity, our legislators enjoy privileges and immunities, but they are restricted. Take the legislators, for instance. Their business is part-time. Contrary to the situation where people have made it full-time in Nigeria. Section 181 of the Constitution stipulates that the legislators, members of the National Assembly and Houses of Assembly shall sit for not less than 181 days a year. That is not full-time job like that of the governor or the president. And because they represent the government, they head the government, the whole idea is to prevent them from having their attention diverted. Notwithstanding that you cannot be charged to court or arrested as a governor or president, you can be investigated and the report will be kept or sent to the National Assembly or House of Assembly, as the case may be, for your impeachment. Or is kept when you are out of the office, you are charged to court.
What do you mean for your impeachment? After the investigation and things are found?
No, if things are found, Section 52 of the ICPC Act says that the Chief Justice of Nigeria can be asked, like the US, to appoint an independent counsel to investigate the president, just like Stein in America, or the governor of the state. And anything found will be sent to the House of Assembly or the National Assembly, as the case may be. That's the provision of the law.
Think that will ever happen here?
Should. It's possible. It's possible. We'll get there. Maybe. Once the law is there, we can always activate the law. If you have people who are serious, but you can't fight corruption without involving the people. It's not the business of the government alone. Because the governments all over the world are the most corrupt institutions. So it's the media, the business of the media, and the generality of the people to be vigilant and expose corruption in government, in the private sector.
And then on to Section 29 of our Constitution, renunciation of citizenship, subsection 4A, which defines full age to mean 18 years and above. Now, subsection 4B goes on further to say, any woman who is married shall be deemed to be of full age. I've been listening to leading Islamic scholar and the Emir of Kano, His Royal Highness Muhammad Sanusi, making a case for age of marriage to be set once and for all in Nigeria. On Tuesday, 24th of May, 2016, he said, I believe the time is right to take a stand on this age-long practice of early marriages. Now, the Child Rights Act of 2003, 24 states have domesticated it already. Isn't it time to expunge from our constitution a provision that makes a 12-year-old girl a married woman,
marriage age,
because a man has married her at 12?
As you have rightly said, we have the Child Rights Act of 2003, which has been adopted by 24 states, following the adoption of the Child Rights Convention by Nigeria in 2003. It is dangerous, it is primitive in this age and time to recognize underage kids as married people. That provision of the Constitution, with profound respect, that subsection is questionable. And what has been done by the civilized world is to set 18 years. You know, anybody under 18 years is a child, considered as a child. Yes. Again, in the case of Nigeria, we allow religion to dominate our affair out of hypocrisy. None of these guys, including a senator who married a 13-year-old Egyptian girl, none of them will allow their daughters
get married
before 18. These children are in schools. That's why I say we're talking of hypocrisy of the ruling class here, who invoke religion when it suits their purpose, or ethnicity to make a point. But in the boardrooms of companies, nobody talks of religion or ethnicity. Yes. The language is money, dollar now. Now it used to be naira when it was powerful. You understand the point I'm making? Yes. So for us as a people, I'm convinced that by the time we should be amending the Constitution, sufficient education will have been, enlightenment will have been carried out for people to appreciate that we have to expunge that section of the Constitution. And we're also challenging enlightened Muslim leaders in the north and the south to ensure that the Child's Rights Law, Child's Rights Act, is adopted by every state. By the way, even in the south, Enugu State has not adopted the law. We must ensure that we protect the right of the child, because children are generally vulnerable in any society.
And everyone assumes it's
and everybody should go to school. Right now, we also have the UB Act, which again has been adopted by most states. And that law provides, just like the Child's Rights Act, that every child shall be in school and be educated from primary to junior secondary school at the expense of the government. We have such a law.
Every child?
Yes, in Nigeria.
So when you see children
on the street, it's clearly illegal. In fact, we are taking some steps, because we have got a judgment since 2009 and the ECOWAS court to the effect that by virtue of Article 17 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, every Nigerian child shall be in school up to junior secondary school.
So it's not an option.
No, it's not an option. In fact, I think the new governor of Edo State, yes, Governor Obaseki, has announced now that he's going to prosecute parents who refuse to send their children to school in accordance with the provisions of that law. And I think Governor El-Rufai has also made a similar statement or threat, because the law says every parent or guardian who fails to send the child or ward to school is deemed to have committed an offense. That's Section 2 of the Child's Rights Act or law. Because right now, we have the largest population of children who are out of school in the whole world.
I hear 10 million now.
No, it's about 15 now. 15? About 15 million children are roaming the streets. So what do you expect? When they are not in school, the Boko Haram, the insurgents, are using them now to throw bombs. In many parts of the country, they are being used to hawk goods, or we employ them as domestic servants, or they are sold into slavery in this age and time. Invest in the future by educating every child in this country.
I want to take you to Ekiti State. You contested in 2003 to be governor. When I watched Rotimi Akeredolu emerge as governor-elect of Ondo State, he reminded me of you. And I wondered if you would try again.
No, I've never given it a thought. I mean, I'm more involved in a larger struggle for the recovery of our country from buccaneers who are pretending to be patriots. Our country is going down the drain. And if you are involved in such a struggle, Ekiti State is an infinitesimal part of that struggle. Still battling with people who have been released from court and who are still languishing in custody.
Discharged?
No, I'm talking of Zaki and his wife.
Yes.
Were illegally arrested on the 14th of December 2015. Last December, the Federal High Court, presided by Justice Kolawole in Abuja, declare their detention illegal. They are still in detention up to now.
What is the reason?
There is no reason. Illegality, impunity. Now, we just talk about children who are roaming the streets when the law has prohibited that, right? We're talking of corruption. Money meant for building roads, for constructing hospitals, is diverted and stolen, and people are dying. So when you have this kind of monumental battles to wage, profound respect, I can only wish some of my friends who are contesting elections for now success.
There's a bigger picture for you.
For sure. And it's the same thing in the continent. The African Union met a couple of days ago, and apart from Nigeria and Senegal, all the other states, 52 of them, decided to say, we are going to pull out of the International Criminal Court en masse.
Why?
Because they want impunity to continue. They don't want to be accountable. Apart from Nigeria and Senegal, and you should also not be surprised, those are the two countries that led the move to chase out Yahya Jammeh after 22 years of gross misrule.
Are you saying that they're all now worried that the way Jammeh was driven out, if they don't...
No, they don't want a chancellor, any longer. They don't want Gbagbo's situation to occur. But what will surprise you? The ICC is been harassing African leaders as if he set up all these countries on their own, voluntarily ratified the Rome Statute. They were not forced, including Nigeria. Again, this will surprise you. Most of those who have been arrested by the special prosecutor and arraigned before that court, most of them, majority of them, arose in Africa, and it was heads of government in Africa that reported the suspect to the ICC. It was the government of Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, that asked the ICC to try Gbagbo. Museveni has invited the ICC to try the leaders of the Lost Resistance Army. Rwanda handed over suspects to the court. Just of recent, the government and the opposition in Equatorial Guinea invited the ICC to arrest those who killed during the political crisis of that country. In the case of President Charles Taylor, the special court for Sierra Leone was set up by the Security Council of the United Nations at the instance of the government of Sierra Leone. This guy who had just been jailed, Asne Abrin, had a warrant of arrest issued against him by a Belgian court. African leaders said no. With what happened to Charles Taylor, we don't want this one taken away again. The AU on its own requested Senegal to set up a special court to try him. Why are these African leaders exposing the continent to ridicule when all you are required to do is to strengthen your own legal system in a way that you do not need any ICC? But as long as you continue to lose election and refuse to leave office and cause a war in a country, ICC will come, whether AU likes it or not.
Can they just leave the ICC by fiat?
No, when they ratify the Rome Statute, many of them will have to go to their parliament to withdraw from the ICC. And of course, the civil societies in each of these countries have already started a campaign,
We'll fight back. You've spoken of your displeasure at Nigeria's plea to foreign governments for the return of stolen loot. You want an aggressive diplomatic and legal measures for loot recovery. Is a plea not faster? If it's our money we want, wouldn't a plea work faster than trying to prove a point?
In the first place, we make the mistake like our governments in believing that a country like Nigeria or African countries are more corrupt than Europe or America. It's a mistake. And as the Yorubas will say, it is not the man who has stolen a tin of oil that should be blamed. It's the man that helped him to remove the tin of oil from the rooftop, because he can't do it alone. Now, I've stolen money from Nigeria. People have stolen money from Ghana, South Africa, Sudan, all over the place, and all over the third world countries. The money is taken to Switzerland and under some dubious banking system. You are allowed to bank your money. The money stolen here is taken to the United Kingdom. Sometimes they also establish islands
Offshore
tax
accounts.
havens, offshore, where they also keep the loot of many countries in the world, including Nigeria. You now want to beg those who are benefiting, profiting from criminality to return your money to you. They're using your money for their own development. So if you want to take your money, like an armed robber with arm, you don't beg an armed robber, please return my money. He knows you are weak, you are begging him. But if you are able to mobilize security forces, the police and the army and all that, and mobilize the community, the armed robber will run and dump whatever arms or ammunition at his disposal. It's the same thing international. If we have evidence and we have traced a lot of this loot to Western banks, don't beg anybody. Employ a team of lawyers at home and abroad and get them to deal with those banks. Not just recovering the actual loot stolen. Those banks also committed offenses in their countries by turning the other eye when criminals were bringing looted funds from their countries. So you also can sue those banks for damages
under their own
which
law.
are higher than what has been stolen. Nobody has gotten any money through plea. No, not substantial money. Yeah. May just deceive you. The United States government, for the 8 years of Obama, we had promises. Not a dime was repatriated here. David Cameron made promises. Even said Nigeria was fantastically corrupt. Not a dime was repatriated to Nigeria. Oh no, they won't do it. They won't do it. They will tell you, the US will say, oh, we're going through a lot of legal, procedures. Yes. We don't just return money. Right now, a case has just been decided in the High Court in Jersey, where the US government filed a copious affidavit to defend that $300 million traced to that country, Jersey.
Yes.
That island be returned to the US to manage for us. Switzerland is saying, yes, we have recovered $321 million, but we're not going to return the money to you unless the World Bank can undertake to monitor what you are going to spend the money on. Can you imagine?
I've always read that
stolen money.
They're dictating what we should spend.
Oh yes. Meanwhile, in the agreement that was signed with Nigeria, they were to deduct the money paid to lawyers to recover this money for us. The remaining money was to be repatriated to Nigeria. Switzerland had paid all these lawyers. When it now comes to returning the $321 million, they brought a new condition, World Bank. Meanwhile, I wrote to the president of Switzerland, what are you talking about? This is your World Bank. Claimed in 2014 and listed projects that they had monitored in Nigeria. Those projects don't exist anywhere. One of the NGOs, SERAP, had to petition the board of the bank. They set up a panel and confirm the allegation by SERAP. I'm talking about when Madam Okoye-Iweala was a minister. She was the one that prepared that report with the World Bank. The World Bank has now come to the conclusion that that report is fake. So that is the World Bank that Switzerland is asking to come and monitor whatever. So they just insult us. What Nigeria should do is what I call aggressive diplomacy. You go to the United Nations. People are dying of poverty in my country. We have traced our money to Switzerland and the United States. Please, can you ask them to give us our money? Of course, with that kind of statement from Nigeria, the civil society groups, the human rights community in those countries will take it up. Return this stolen fund that has been traced here. Okay? You also get lawyers to go to court. The last time the US collected from Volkswagen $4.7 billion because of emission. Those cars were brought here.
We didn't collect anything.
No. In 2009, in spite of the relationship between the United Kingdom and the United States, the Obama administration forced BP, British Petroleum, to pay $20 billion for the leakage in the Gulf of Mexico. About that time, we had the Bonga field explosion from Bayelsa up to Ondo State. Our waters were polluted completely. Nothing happened. No money was paid by way of compensation. So we have to be aggressive in protecting the interests of our country. How will you not be in recession? Has Nigeria not always been in recession? Go and ask the poor. They have always been asked to tighten their belt. People are deceiving us. Oh, we've just declared recession. What the government simply wanted to announce is that the money we were making from oil is no longer there. That's all. If you are going to run the economy of this country in the interest of the Nigerian people, you have to fight capital flight, which is still on. Round tripping. Nobody is talking about that. Rand tripping is still going on. Capital flight is going on legitimate. Profits made there are repatriated abroad. The loot recovery, we haven't made any progress. Right now, we have multiple exchange rates. There's no way you can run an economy with multiple exchange rates. I will simply go and buy. I want to go to Mecca or Jerusalem. I buy at 199. I go and sell at 500. Soon normal. Or I get from interbank rate of 305. I go to the black market to sell for 500. And so I become a multi-billionaire. And that is what is going on, to the detriment of the economy. So if you are going to run a country in the interest of the Nigerian people, you must empower them economically. You must allow them to take control of the affairs of our country. The World Bank and the IMF were not set up to help the economy of African countries. No, they are set up to guarantee and legitimize capital flight and render our country, impotent economically, either through SAP or what they call globalization. Now to prevent developing countries from to compete. The apostle of globalization are now talking of everybody to himself and God for us all. It's about nationalism. Britain is pulling out of the European Union. Britain is not pulling out of Commonwealth because Commonwealth is set up to continue colonialism via neocolonialism.
Yes.
The US is pulling out of NAFTA. It's pulling out of the Asia Partnership Agreement.
Trump says America first.
America first. But for us, it's imperialism first. World Bank first. IMF first. We're not talking about Nigeria first. I mean, can you imagine the ongoing Big Brothers show? It's beamed to Nigeria. It's being filmed in South Africa. And the organizers have the temerity to say, yes, we're doing it in South Africa because it's cheaper for us. Then, please, make it Big Brother South Africa. Oh, yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Falana. And thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajetomobi.